Hello peeps, friends and fans, and welcome to our channel, Mama and Meadow. Today's episode will be about the things the dealership doesn't tell RV newbies. At least this is my experience. This is just going to be 5, but I'm sure there's many more. Anywho, let's get started. First of all, the first one isn't necessarily what the dealership didn't tell me, but it's kind of like what I'm telling you not to do when it comes to the dealership, and that is do not listen to what the salesman tells you about technical issues with your RV. No. Let me give you a little backstory. I had originally started looking at RVs in October of 2022. I had one of these, which is what I had chose, the Thor 4 Winds, picked out in October of 2022, and I was going to go visit it, but unfortunately my dad had gotten sick in Florida. And I had to fly down there, and I wound up taking care of him till he passed away, and then taking care of my mom, and so on and so forth. So I didn't get back till about December. When I did, the guy's like, oh, we sold that last week. So I waited a while, because I knew I didn't really want to buy it in the wintertime, and I was thinking, the end of 2023 is about when I wanted to buy it. So I waited a few months, and no, they didn't have the model, and no, they didn't have a model, and then he finally said, why don't you rent one and see if that's what you like? So for my 60th birthday, me and the Long Island girls rented it in May. It was a much older model than this, but, went and took it out. I'm like, yes, this is what I want. And I had asked the guy from the beginning, I want this, 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 and this, because I had done my research for like 2.5 years, and I knew what I wanted, and I want what I knew. And I asked all these questions. Oh, I don't know. I'll give you a call back. Well, after weeks of that, that guy got a promotion. Okay, wonderful. Then he passed me on to the parts lady. Now, not for nothing, but I still think I knew more about the parts than she did. So weeks and weeks again. What about this? What about that? I want this as an upgrade. Oh, I don't know. Let me give you a call back. Weeks later, nothing. Wound up being passed on to the general manager, I think it was. He tried to sell me a different model. I'm like, no. First of all, what he was trying to sell me, no, ruled that out a long time ago. Didn't want it. I knew what I wanted. I just want to know how much was it and how much was it going to be to add the upgrades that I wanted. I mean, it was a sure sale. I just needed to know, and they never got back to me. Then they passed me on to a 4th salesperson who literally, he must have been, hello, just got the job. So I wound up emailing the company and saying, please give me somebody local somewhere. Whatever. So wound up being in another state. And fortunately, that was like within a half an hour, the guy had, this model in stock. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. It had some things that I didn't really need or want, but I'm like, all right, whatever. So told him what my upgrades were, and I thought things were great. Yeah, no. He talked me out of a bunch of things, which I wound up needing to have anyway. One of them being I wanted to switch from regular batteries to lithium batteries. And the salesman's like, oh, you can just switch them right out. Just switch them right out. So fortunately, a friend of mine who was helping me, zhuzh the whole thing and do some things. He's a contractor, a neighbor, friend. And he's like, oh, well, before we do that, is that going to do anything to the solar panels? Because I had solar panels installed. So I called the salesman. Fortunately, he wasn't there. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Because they sent me to the service department. And the service guy's like, no, you can't just switch out the lithium batteries because it's a motorhome. So there's a battery that runs the vehicle and the battery that runs the house, and they have to connect. Which, if you saw my original intro video, which my first day out, my first trip out was 3 days in a hotel. Because it took them 3 days to move the batteries, put in the lithium batteries, which the original ones I ordered were wrong, rewire the thing, remove, and then put in the inverter, which I had been talked out of also, which the service guy's like, oh yeah, if you need the inverter, you need yada yada blah blah. Which I'm glad we did that, because the original batteries were like in this little metal thing underneath the stairs. It's not even like something built in the stairs. I was on the top looking down one day when I was in the rig, and you could see the ground. I mean, right now, I was going through the stairs and cleaning because we moved them into the bench part of the dinette. Thank you. And then the inverter's on the other bench thing. I didn't have storage under my bench, but there was room there. So yay, we put the lithium batteries on one side and the inverter on the other, and the wiring went to the floors and blah, blah, blah. But underneath the stairs, I looked to clean them. And like all that, it was just like a metal shelf, and the battery would have been strapped in, which was subjected to the dirt, the mud, the snow, whatever. Ugh. which would kick up from there. So I'm glad we actually moved it anyway. So that was my first thing. It's not so much what the dealership didn't tell you, but what I'm telling you about the dealership, which is don't ever listen to the salesman when it comes to technical stuff. Go to the service department. If you did your homework and you have questions, make sure they tell you no, you don't need the parts, and buy the thing and go and find out yes, you do. Number 2 in this lovely 5 things the dealerships don't tell you. You need to winterize, well, probably the whole thing, but definitely need to winterize a hot water tank, even if you don't use it or have water in it. And how did I find that out? Hello. Like I said, I bought the thing and I took out the jackknife couch and I put it in a desk. So I bought it and it was in my front yard or whatever, my parking spot, because I don't have a garage. And me and the neighbor that I told you about helped me build the thing in there. And it was cold. There were many nights where it hit 20-something degrees. And I kept telling him, well, I'm going to turn the battery off when I'm not using it in the house and turn the heat on, during the day to do whatever we want. And I didn't have any water in it. Now, granted, the guy who showed me how to do things, there was water and he drained it all out. And he asked me if I wanted to winterize it. I'm like, well, I'm not really going to use it. So, he's like, oh, okay. And that was it. I mean, that was the end of it. To find out later that I had actually paid for a package to have it winterized, but it was not. And again, how did I know it wasn't? Because my first event out to a campground, which thank God I only went to a campground that was like, I don't know, half an hour away from the dealership, which was the same campground that the Long Island girls and I had gone to. And I figured I would go there, stay there for 5 days just to figure things out and, zhuzh things up and organize and blah, blah, blah. And thank God. Because the minute I turned the water on, the hot water tank exploded all over. Just gushed. And you could see, I had pictures, and if I can find it, I'll post it here, where the pipes looked like a duck thingy. It just exploded. So when I called them, they're like, oh yeah, it only takes 1 day of 20 degrees where it could damage the hot water tank, and it's a tankless one. And I said, I didn't have any water, I didn't use it. And he's like, well, all it takes is a little bit of water. So probably what was in there previously, even though it was drained, was still in there. And because it was like 20 degrees several times, because I bought it, I think the last day in January, so all of February, it sat outside the whole time, I should say, the whole time, when I was, doing things to it. And so it exploded. $1,400 later, and I had to go back to the dealership, which I said was a half an hour away, okay? So winterize, check it. Even though you may not have put any water and used it, you never know. You have to either put in like antifreeze or something like that, or put it someplace warm, but nobody tells you that. Now, I never thought I'd ever say this, but you would think they'd see this little old blonde lady coming in and they would have mansplained me to death. Never in my entire life have I ever wanted to be mansplained more. I got no explanations about anything. Nothing. I didn't even get a test drive, by the way. Yes, that's true. And I sat there for about an hour or so because it was bought out by someone else and they had to get some paperwork from another building. So I sat in the main room for like an hour or so. And then they're like, oh, here's your paperwork. And I was complaining because I'm like, oh my God, it's getting dark and I have a 2-hour drive to get back to my house. I got to go. Never gave me a key to put in and show me how to do. No. None of that. None. Okay. Number 3, propane tanks. I'm absolutely petrified of propane, and I told them that. Of course, they don't let you know anything about the propane tanks. I don't know anything about it. I've never even used a propane tank for a barbecue. I've always had the charcoal kind, and I've always had my friends or neighbors light it for me. So, while I was there to get the hot water tank fixed, repaired, replaced, whatever, I had mentioned that I turned the heat on the night before and it wasn't working. And I had used the heat, so I knew it worked. I turned on the propane when I was building the desk and taking the couch out. I would turn the heat on, just to heat up the thing during the day while I was doing that. So I knew it worked. Also, when I had to put it in storage because of HOA in my neighborhood, a whole nother video, I went to fill up the propane tank. So I had the propane tank filled up, and then I went and I stored it in some guy's 3-acre lot, grass. That's another story coming up soon, too. So, all right, so it was stored. I had filled the propane tank. First I had used it for several, I don't know, a couple of weeks. I had filled up the thing, whatever. And then when I had brought it back to the dealership, the RV back to the dealership to replace my lovely exploded hot water tank, I had mentioned that they turned the heat on and it wasn't working. And so when they did put the hot water tank, they like, it's not working because the propane is off. Now, apparently, when they fill the propane tank, which it was, I had some guy do it, they turn it off because you're technically not supposed to drive when it's on, so you turn it off when you're driving and turn it on when you use it. So he's like, oh, we turned it on and it's fine. And I said, okay, well, how do I do that? I mean, it seems like something easy, turn it on and turn it off, but you look and my tank is attached to the vehicle. It's not one of those, 5-gallon things that you use for a barbecue. It's a 12-gallon. It's in underneath. And again, I don't know any of this shit. I'm sorry, but I don't. So he's like, you're just going to turn it on. So I said, show me how. So it's a little knob that, you turn to the right to turn off when you're driving. But here's another thing. Don't forget to turn it to the left when you get to your campground or wherever to turn it back on. Yes, okay. I've done that a few times. So now I drive back to the campground that I was at supposedly for 5 days, the one that's half an hour away. And again, the heat is not working. He's like, that whole joke about, it was off, we tested and you just turn it on. And I said, it's still not working. So fortunately, I had an electric heater because I couldn't get an appointment for another 2 days to drive back to the dealership again for them to look at it. So now my appointment was for 10 a.m. that morning. They didn't go in and look at it till 2 p.m. Okay, and I still had to go back to the campground, which, the office closes at 5, but, no big deal. So they finally look and he's like, it's not something simple. We got to take the rig in the back. And hours later, it wound up being the thermostat. So probably when I was trying to turn it off when it was off and turn it on, whatever, did something to the thermostat. Fortunately, the thermostat was covered under warranty because I bought 8 million different warranties. Again, not from the dealership. That's a whole nother video in and of itself. But I had it warranted, and so it was covered. But, by the time thermostat was put in, thank God they had it in stock, it's like 5 o'clock or whatever, and I'd call the campground and tell them that I was coming late because I had gone, I don't know, I think I extended my stay. I don't know what it was, but I had to come and go and whatever. And so back another half an hour to the campground I went. So now it works. So now here's the thing with the propane for you newbies. You have to turn it off when you're traveling, and usually when you get it filled, the guy who fills it will turn it off, so because you don't want it to be on while you're traveling. But then when you get to where you're going, turn it to the left to turn it on, so when you want the heat or hot water or what have you in your rig, you need it. So several times I had to remember that. Turn it off when you're traveling, turn it on when you're there. Turn it off when you're traveling, turn it on when you're there. Another good thing. Number 4, tire pressure. Now, I have seen so many horror stories on these RV YouTube thingies of the tire pressures or tire things exploding. So I bought, one of those tire pressure monitors and put it on. And I think my front tires are supposed to be 75 PSI, pounds per square inch, and the back one's supposed to be 80 pounds per square inch. Well, you read the things and it says, put it a few numbers down and a few numbers up. Well, every time I went driving, the thing was beeping. It scared the living bejeebies out of me because it was like beep, beep, beep. You have to press it down. But then I kept pressing and turning it off so many times. And I'm thinking, oh my God, is this going to be like, the wolf that cried, the what? The lamb? Somebody that cried wolf? Somebody cried wolf. Whatever. So I didn't want to keep turning it off if there really was something wrong. Well, the serviceman told me, course only after something happened, he said it should be like 10% below what the 10% below that and 10% above it. Now I put it a little bit more because it notoriously goes like 1 or 2 PSIs above that. So the 80 I have down to 70 and 90, and the 75 I think I have to 65 and 75, and that seems to work out well. But they don't tell you these things. Again, it's like I'm so afraid of exploding tires on the road, going off the road, and that's a hot mess. Did not want to have. I still had some issues with tire pressure thingies, but I think we've gotten that straightened out. But make sure you get a tire pressure monitor, because that will really let you know what's going on with the tires. Although many of the people that I've traveled with or whatever, they're like, maybe it's better if you didn't know. That's what they don't even have one. They're like, yeah, sometimes we don't want to know what we don't want to know. But that's a scary thing for me, the tires. So make sure you know what is your tire pressure supposed to be. Get one of those tire pressure monitors and adjust it, you know, like 10 notches below and 10 notches above. And that's because once you drive it, the heat, especially since it's so stinking hot this summer, you know, the tires will heat up, and then obviously when it's sitting it gets cooler and it will go down a little bit. What the service guy did say, that what you should really worry about is, you know, not that they're going down or they're going up because it's hot or it's cold, but if one or maybe two are doing, you know, the pressure is so much different than the rest of them, that's when you really need to worry. With one of the tires, and I have 6 tires. I have 2 in the front, and there's 2 on the left and 2 on the right. Dualies, they call them, 2 on the right and 2 on the left. So I have 6 tires in total to worry about. So that's what he said to worry about. Not so much that if they're all going down a little or they're all going up a bit, you know, because of the heat or the cool, not to worry about that. But if one or more is like way out of whack, that's when you need to get it serviced and have it checked out. Number 5, the rear view signal. Okay, my first drive home, the one that I told you that, oh my God, it's going to get dark, and they never gave me a test drive or what have you, there's a screen, and you know, you turn that on, and my rear view mirrors have cameras in them. Now, I don't have a window in the back of my RV, and it's 30 foot long anyway, so I can't really see, and it has a backup camera, but I mean, you obviously have to be backing up, but it's not a camera that's on all the time. So they failed to tell me, first of all, how to turn that screen on. Literally, when I left, I got in the thing and I said, how do you turn the screen on? I didn't even know how to do that. Didn't even know how to do that. So, almost killing somebody because I didn't see them. I figured it out 30 minutes in that, oh, when you turn your left or right signal on, the cameras go on. And you could see there. Now, obviously, after a while, you kind of get used to the mirrors because there's a bigger mirror and the closer mirror, the other way around. But there's 2 separate kinds of, you know, up close and far away, whatever. The real McCoy mirror, and then the ones that are more distant. So once you get used to those, because sometimes looking at the camera and then looking left or right, but at least you've got that there. It took me a while to figure that out, and almost killing somebody who literally honked their horn, you know, halfway home because she was pissed at me. But I can't blame her. Almost walked her right off the road. So yes, make sure you know how to use your rear view mirrors or your rear view cameras so you don't knock anybody off the sidewalk. It's always a bonus to do that. Don't want to kill anybody, right? Hey, okay. So those are my main ones. There are actually many more, and I'll probably make some more videos of that because I just was at the dealership. More on that later. So hopefully this was helpful to you. I'm going to make another video about, you know, just things in general that newbies should know. And again, you don't know what you don't know because, you know, and I knew nothing. I know nothing about cars. I mean, I can do anything in the house. I'm a power tool queen. Anything with wood and carpentry and, you know, anything that has to do with the house when it comes to a vehicle, I know squat. And again, little old blonde lady, why didn't they mansplain me to death? Never thought I'd say that. But anywho, so if this video was helpful to you, please like and share and subscribe and comment below. What was your experience with the dealership? Was that exciting? Yeah, all right. So thank you so much for listening, and hopefully you'll come and join us again for the next one. Peace out.